Welcome back to my channel. This is Coach DC from All 22 Films. It's going to be my second or perhaps third actually look at what we project to be the Declan Doyle offense in Baltimore in 2026. We get a lot of footage that comes out, short snippets of plays. This video is actually kind of born out of a suggestion or comment from a viewer of a video related to a video I put out Sunday night, asking me to look at the Broncos pass game concepts, and so I did. Declan Doyle obviously spent a lot of time with Sean Payton in New Orleans, and then in Denver once Payton took over there in 2023. The video kind of goes sideways, or at least in my brain it does, because I like some of the stuff they do, particularly this one-man screen. The Raiders are interestingly responding to 11 personnel with their base defensive structure, a 4-3 look, if you will, from a personnel standpoint. But I was really struck by how consistently Bo Nix is given routes to throw behind the line of scrimmage. Now, this one, is it a protection measure? I don't know. I understand that the data or the number of his throws behind the line of scrimmage at Oregon, was super high as well. In any case, I really do like the one-man screen concept. Greg Roman started to use it in Baltimore in 2022. It's an escort screen that has routes attached to it, and those routes are designed to get DBs, in particular this outside corner, to flow or respond to those routes. In this case, intermediate kind of hook routes or comeback routes by all three guys. And you can see Nix is onto this route completely. That corner has too much depth, right? And they're able to access this space really quickly. It's a cool concept. I don't want to say a cheap way to get yards. It can be simpler or easier, essentially just an old school swing pass with a blocker out in front. Everybody uses it now, but it showed up a ton in the Denver film, to the point where in our Ravens Discord, I began to ask guys like, hey, what was the target share, or what was the downfield, the depth of target for Bo Nix in 2025? Because so many of these route concepts had that type of one-man screen attached to it. I still did 4 games work, but I'm actually showing you film from only 3 of those games. The Raiders here in Week 14, then the Chargers in Week 18, and I backtracked to Dallas in Week 8. There was a point in time where it became kind of boring to me, I have to be honest with you, with how many times the ball was thrown to running backs at or behind the line of scrimmage. Nonetheless, I like the opportunities that are there for Derrick Henry, Justice Hill, Randall, the rookie drafted from Clemson. The Broncos do things differently, probably related to the fact that they had such a high-level defense, compared to the Bears or even the Lions when Ben Johnson was there. I'm not sure that I can say the offense for Denver is a brother, a sibling, or even a cousin to what Ben Johnson runs in Chicago and what he showed in Detroit. I almost feel like those guys they're not related, to be honest with you. Look, Ben Johnson never coached with Sean Payton, and obviously they're not related. I'm talking about from an analogy standpoint. It to me would almost be more so like their moms are best friends or something like that, because the design of things, while it is similar in some cases, oftentimes it's on those concepts that are ran ubiquitously across the NFL. I really do like this one, to be honest with you. I think it's a Tampa 2 by the Raiders. You can see the 4 underneath structure, and then the middle runner here trying to get depth, but it's been broken by the play action fake from Bo Nix. And one thing that's consistent is oftentimes you're getting this pass protection scheme where a guard is pulling and leading out in front on the edge defender off of play action. Easy access, some would say easy mode throws, if you will. You've got, again, 2 more vertical type clear out routes, and then the running back underneath, and Bo Nix goes to it quickly. You never know what a quarterback is told in his headset, right? I will tell you this. There seemed to be a high percentage of these type of concepts where Nix accessed the running back quickly, the first 2 that I've shown you here, on like 2nd and 4, 2nd and 5. And that's exactly what we've got here. To me, that is more so a coach's pattern of behavior and or play calling. It could be related to the quarterback, don't get me wrong, but I guess what I'm saying is Declan Doyle is going to be working with Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's average depth of target is pretty far down the field. In fact, I think it tends to be one of the deeper, consistently throwing downfield the most in the NFL, really compared to all quarterbacks, but in particular, guys like Bo Nix. Just to make sure you're aware of why the Sean Payton, Ben Johnson linkage is made by many people. Look, they never coached together, as I said, but Dan Campbell did. Dan Campbell, Aaron Glenn, all coached with Sean Payton in New Orleans. And then Ben Johnson ended up being the offensive coordinator for Detroit in 2022. Incredible amount of success, 22, 23, 24. Some of the plays are similar. This would be one of them. It's a play action boot. You can really see this in the Jared Goff film and even Caleb Williams from 2025. They're making it look like power with the fullback kicking out the defensive end and then the running back, going down the midline and then off tackle because everyone's been taken down. There's a lot going on here that I really like. So this one does remind me of some Ben Johnson stuff, whereby you have the over-under element of either two tight ends or one tight end and a receiver. So what I'm talking about here is this underneath route by the tight end, and then the over concept. I call it over-under. Other people have different names, but the idea is it's giving the inside linebacker into the boundary, Devin White, the will linebacker, giving him something to cover. It's that tight end right there. In this case, the Z receiver sneaks in, over the top of him or behind him. It's put the will linebacker in conflict. Also taking advantage of, so many teams at the NFL level, well, at all levels of football, are going to play oftentimes, zone to the field and man into the boundary. So when you run these types of routes all the way across the field, if you get that space created, by the boot action, then that receiver running from the field into the boundary runs onto space that's been vacated because the wide receiver essentially ran the corner off and opened up that area of the field. Again, I would say it's more like an easy mode throw. The play action boot obviously looks promising for Lamar Jackson and Baltimore. I will also link this in some way to a discussion that happened last year around this time. What would the Clint Kubiak scheme look like with Sam Darnold in Seattle, and projection on those things? And we see how that turned out. The commitment to the run game, whether it was incredibly successful or not, we would obviously expect the run game to be successful with Derrick Henry back there. But the commitment to the run game oftentimes opened up play action opportunities for Seattle in 2025. I think the comparison between Doyle to guys like Kubiak and Ben Johnson is more accurate in my mind right now as far as the run game coordination with play action compared to what we're seeing from Sean Payton. Now, I'm not trying to minimize the time that Doyle spent with Sean Payton, but what I'm seeing on the field doesn't necessarily line up with what Smythe said in the Lounge podcast that Doyle is installing, which is essentially the same offense as the Chicago Bears from 2025. We got another one-man screen here. Now, first of all, it was oftentimes effective. This is a third down. And second of all, some patterns emerged with some of these concepts. So it's going to be the tight end leading out into the flats for the running back, one-man screen, escort, whatever you want to call it. But when that did occur, it oftentimes happened to the field. The ball is on the left hash here for the offense. And so, again, kind of hearkening back to that zone look to the field. We're talking about these defenders here with their eyes on the routes and or the quarterback at the same time versus the boundary side corner up here, which I believe is Darian Porter. I actually did a film study video on him not that long ago. Clearly, he's taken a man turn and reacting to the receiver in a radically different way than those guys at the bottom side of the screen. So it's possible that Denver does this to certain parts of the field when they know you're playing zone. Essentially try to get a blocker out in front, give the running back, in this case it's Harvey, give him like a two-way go, if you will. And I think it'll be interesting what Doyle comes up with for Lamar. Lamar tends to look down the field first. He tends to look for the deeper concepts first. That's who he is at this point. I wonder if that was coached into him by Todd Monken, number one. I would be really interested in some of these types of concepts being utilized often, even though I've been, a little critical of what I saw from the 4 games that I focused on for Denver. Essentially what I'm saying is this is oftentimes a no-cover zone for zone defenses. No-cover zone means if this is the line of scrimmage, I think the +7 or +7 at the beginning of the play, +8 maybe. Oftentimes it's a no-cover zone inside of 3 or inside of 5 yards, depending on what coverage a team is playing. So you can get the ball out there to your athletes, Justice Hill, Derrick Henry, Randall, of course, was had a big impact at Clemson in the past game because he's a converted wide receiver. Will we see more zone in Baltimore? I have no idea. We've got 4 tight ends on this roster right now. I expect them all to be on the roster. Andrews, Smythe, Cuevas, and Hibner. To me, Cuevas is more talented than Hibner. He's more polished, but Hibner's got the athletic ability, and he's pretty explosive. These one-man screens, we could use anyone for them. They've been in our playbook for a while. Some of you may recall J.K. Dobbins had a huge gain, almost took it to the house against the Cincinnati Bengals in the 2022 wildcard playoff loss up there in Cincinnati on a one-man screen. Found another similarity here, albeit not one that's in the pass game to what Ben Johnson runs. Keep in mind as well, Eric Bieniemy was the running back coach in Chicago in 2025. So Declan Doyle being exposed to Ben Johnson and Eric Bieniemy, 2 guys who coach hard, who are pretty much in your face as far as trying to get things executed the right way. And Doyle spent a year with them. So from a Ravens perspective, as a Ravens fan, I'm happy with that progression for Doyle. In any case, this was a tough watch, this game, Week 18 against the Chargers, even though this plays a lot of fun. I call it down sweep. It's a 12 personnel group, but it's almost like 12 personnel in quotations or with an asterisk. And that's because Evan Ingram essentially has wide receiver skills. Now, they're going to run I know we're supposed to be focusing on pass plays here, but there is an element to this that's kind of RPO-ish because you got a bubble down here at the bottom side of the screen. And because the Chargers are matching this 4 over 3, so what I'm talking about is these 4 defenders here over top of the 3 eligible receivers to the field, that gives Denver numbers into the boundary on this down sweep. Down sweep has the guard, the play side guard, and the center pulling, and I will give you the end zone angle so you can see it. I don't think that this is an actual read by Bo Nix. I think he's just trying to make it look like a read. They are locking it on the backside, blocking the edge defender with the tackle. That doesn't necessarily mean anything about whether it's a read or not. I love this play. Into the boundaries where you see it run the most. Ben Johnson special at times. He's a savant at attacking into the boundary, being Ben Johnson. So if Doyle brings that type of mentality, which is I'm going to pepper you into the boundary, force you to defend things there, especially from your nickel alignment. Look, the Chargers are a base nickel defense. We know that, right? Because that's what Jesse Minter is. Todd Monken had some similarities there, to be honest with you, as far as the consistency with which he would attack into the boundary. This is a play we did not run, however. I call it down sweep because of the running back path. Ben Johnson ran it in Detroit 23-24 when I really started tracking their offensive plays and was fortunate enough to be able to create a database of Ravens and Lions plays. Wasn't able to get it done last year just because of time constraints. Why does it work? It works really well against nickel defenses. The nickel is primarily set to the field. That's where 3 receivers are here. So the nickel is off screen down here to our right, like the 4:30, maybe 5 o'clock position, if you will. And the way that it works blocking scheme-wise is the tight end and the play side tackle are down blocking. So the tight end is going up to the inside linebacker, 43. Now the tight end will give a little juke here, actually. He'll kind of initially step to the edge defender and then veer down to the inside linebacker. But in addition, the tackle is down blocking on this 3 technique. Right guard, pull, and log, which means he will wrap around the edge defender. And the center's job is the one that I find the most interesting. We did things like this with Linderbaum. We actually ran down sweep like maybe 4 times in the last 2 years, I love the play concept. If you've got an athletic center who can get out there in front of the running back, the path of the back is why I'm committed to calling it a sweep play, because it's a horizontal path illustrated by that blue line there. Again, this is Week 18, so there's some backups on the field for both teams in various positions, but it's a great play concept into the boundary. Yes, it has an RPO tag on the end of it. Ben Johnson majors in it. He used to, at 23, there was games where he ran it 3, 4, 5 times a game. This one, Week 18, was really tough to watch, like I said, because of the conservative play calls by Denver, to be honest with you. Really, the suggestion that was made was for me to focus on third down pass plays. And after watching this Week 18 game, actually, while I was breaking it down, this was the second one that I focused on. I decided that I'm actually going to do third down play calls from Chicago. I just feel like there's more similarity there. It's more recent as far as Declan Doyle's exposure. Nonetheless, I did find some plays that I enjoyed. I think I've got 3 more here for you guys. This is 13 personnel for the Broncos. It's a 1st and 10. I think we're into the second quarter. So once again, on a play action, they're going to pull the guard. In this case, it's going to be the right guard. 3 tight ends on the field, and so the Chargers are in their base 3-4 structure. Essentially 5-2, 3-4 look with 2 inside linebackers. So over concept. Look, Lamar's run this hundreds of times, dating back to his time with Greg Roman. The only difference is it was out of the pistol. And this route here was Mark Andrews. Well, we can project it. It'll be Mark Andrews, once again. If you ask me, the difference is creating more space for the quarterback through having his back turned to the defense and giving these guys a little bit more hesitation. Essentially, what we would teach as an inside linebacker is if you get a wrong read, if you step downhill, you got to now turn your back and go look for work to get underneath of the pass concept. In this case, they got one linebacker. I think that's actually Del'Shawn Phillips, former Raven. He's kind of checking up with the flat route. And because the boundary side corner, almost kind of hanging out, middle depth, if you will, I think it's Cam Hart. Ingram runs this over concept, but it's key that the ball is thrown early. I always felt like Lamar got this ball to Andrews right about where Bo Nix gets it. And what I mean is get it to the tight end before the top of the numbers. In fact, some cases, a couple of yards inside the top of the numbers, such that you don't wait so long that boundary side corner can make a play. Now, that's not going to happen on this particular version of it. Don't get me wrong. I guess what I'm saying is some of these plays that I found for Denver, we've run before. The over concept off play action out of the pistol, and Lamar is really good at getting the ball to Andrews or whoever the tight end is. It's a classic concept, right? Multiple teams use it. The Bears, Ben Johnson, chief among them. Just to illustrate the difference between certain play callers, and this is somewhat of a generalization. First of all, this is a mesh concept on 3rd and 2. It'll be a completed pass over the middle to that blue route that you see there. I just call it basically a sit-down route in the middle. Mesh, I actually did a video on recently. You're more than welcome to check it out if you want to. Typically characterized by a running back running a wheel, 2 underneath drag routes. And in my experience, the running back wheel elicits or pulls the underneath drag, the low side drag from the opposite side of the field, whereas this is the high side drag, the one that emanates from the same side as the running back wheel. In any case, I digress. Like I said, I did a video on this about a week and a half ago, something like that. 3rd and 2 calling mesh. I mean, many teams do that. The Ravens under Todd Monken in recent years, we'd probably be running option here. Couple of things. It puts the inside linebackers in conflict. We're talking about these 2 guys here because they got these 2 routes crossing in front of their face. And then you've got the sit-down route. In this case, it's by Franklin, the rookie from Oregon, underneath. Inside linebackers have the crossing routes in front of them, and so it makes that sit-down route oftentimes open if you get time. And here you've got a clean pocket for Bo Nix. That's what we hope for Lamar Jackson, right? It wasn't under center. It was in the shotgun. When I alluded to or talked about differences, Todd Monken is going to call hurry up here, huddle, and then go option. I'm talking about 2024, 2025 in Baltimore. Ben Johnson on 3rd and 2. Here's how different he is. He might be going play action and go up top. You know why? Because he's going to go for it on 4th down. So that aspect is something I cannot project, meaning how often do Jesse Minter and Declan Doyle want to go for it on 4th down? Because that can change your 3rd and 2 call because if there's an incomplete pass, you're still going to go for it on 4th and 2. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea of what my brain sees as major differences between guys like Todd Monken, even Greg Roman, Sean Payton, and then real outliers like Ben Johnson. Not just outliers from a decision-making standpoint, what type of play what type of play call concept, do I want to use here? But am I going to go for it on fourth down or not? And that could influence or alter the choice that I make as far as the play concept on 3rd and 2. Hopefully, I expressed that dichotomy or that differences between some of these guys to you guys. Again, I know it was a little bit of a generalization. I really enjoy the Ben Johnson scheme. That should be obvious if you listen to me talk about it. I hope that's what Doyle relies on. I increasingly find it interesting that Eric Bieniemy spent 2025 in Chicago, and now, of course, he's returned to Kansas City. If you look at Patrick Mahomes' statistical outputs, he was at his best under Eric Bieniemy. I think Lamar is scheme independent. I don't think it really necessarily matters, what scheme it is, as long as it's something consistent and the play caller is prepared and the offensive line can give him time and space. This is another play action. It's very similar to the concept I showed with Ingram, and it's a one high look for the Cowboys. This is Week 8 film, like I said. You got an 8-man front in the box. Oftentimes against these one high looks, the over route is the one that's going to be open, and that can be relied upon consistently, if you will, but we never know what quarterbacks are told in their headset, okay? Sutton does actually flash open late here. The free safety is typically handling a vertical, not jumping. Well, some teams do. The Detroit Lions under Aaron Glenn and even Kelvin Shepard, they would let their free safeties come down and help with this over route and basically ask their corner, okay, you've got to handle the vertical totally one-on-one. There's, other teams that do it as well. It's not just the Detroit Lions. There's a difference here. The free safety who's spot shadowed on the 3 o'clock position of our screen is kind of handling that vertical. He actually overruns it. What I mean is he actually overruns it too far. And I also wonder if Franklin brings his route too far in towards the middle of the field, like on this type of path, and Bo Nix is throwing the football here. But you can see Sutton comes open late. I feel like, actually I know, sometimes quarterbacks are told by the offensive coordinator, in the headset before the play, hey, look, we're going to go with this call, and if you get this look, we want it to be thrown here. Just like the same example to Evan Ingram earlier, Sutton is obviously breaking open late. There's no one to stop you from throwing the football down here. Sometimes all of us who try to analyze the game, probably get a little bit too reactionary talking about quarterbacks because we don't know what they've been told leading up to the game. But I love that play. You got the traditional run pass conflict. You've also got a horizontal stretch. When I say horizontal stretch, I'm talking about the over route here versus the running back action here. So you've got horizontal conflict. You've also got the vertical stretch. In this case, it's Franklin. The Ravens obviously have receivers who can get those things done. In the case of the two new guys, Jacoby Lane and Surratt, but also Bateman, Flowers, and Tez Walker. I like the concept, especially from going from under center and trying to attack teams deep at times. Perhaps you think that earlier in the video I was being a little bit overly negative about the conservative play calling. There's a reason for it, right? Denver has had a fantastic defense in 2025, and they wanted to play to that. It's also tough or perhaps unfair to compare it to Ben Johnson's play calling, again, because he's so willing to go for it on fourth down. He also had a quarterback in Caleb Williams who he knew, could make plays. He had that daring nature to him, if you ask me. But I hope that we see more Chicago 2025 and more Detroit 22-24 than we do 2025 Denver Broncos. In any case, we run this concept kind of a dash look flood as far as the routes go. Differential in how Denver's getting this accomplished, however. They're leaving the edge defender, Ezeraku, the rookie, leaving him unblocked, making it look like a read. I don't think Bo Nix is actually reading this here. I think they just knew what Ezeraku would do. So we've essentially got play action. Really nice throw on the run. You've got the underneath route here that kind of holds the nickel defender. That's Deron Bland. Let me pull that back a little bit. And you can see how the motion impacts Bland. He's kind of in the box here now. And then the motion across will get him to widen up. And then he takes Ingram out in the flats. Here's the wheel that was the motion. And then this is the high side route, if you ask me, in the flood. And that's what Bo Nix takes. Lamar has hit that route a couple of times. We do this differently. We did this differently, under Monken. more so of like a sprint concept, okay, where the tight end would block down here. They're leaving the edge defender totally unblocked and relying on him to step down in a fundamental manner as if the quarterback is actually going to give the ball to the running back. Gives the appearance of zone read, even though in that case I don't think Bo Nix is actually reading it. It's a fun video for me to try to produce, looking at a new team's offense. My opinion or my observations was probably influenced or skewed by the order of the games that I watched. And what I mean is, Doyle's obviously got a lot of influences. Sean Payton's going to be one of them. I think the particular strengths of the quarterbacks that he's been around probably moved or pushed the offensive play callers in one direction or the other. In this case, I watched the game against the Raiders from, I think, week 14. Then the week 18 game against the Chargers. Went back and watched the first game against the Raiders. I think was week 7 or week 10. And then week 8 against the Cowboys, the film that you saw here. Both Nix and Caleb Williams are mobile, right? Doyle knows that he's got the ultimate athlete back there at quarterback. He actually said this week, I think earlier this week, that Lamar Jackson is the twitchiest athlete he's ever seen. It's like, yeah, that's why you're here. That's why you took the job. Well, it actually is, and both isn't why he took the job. I don't think Doyle's offense is going to rely on Lamar to create space and running lanes for other people by default. I said that in the first video. You're more than welcome to check it out if you haven't done so already. That one was a fun one. That one was more fun to produce, focusing on the Bears film, Ben Johnson's play calling. I hope that Doyle is influenced more so there by that one season spent with Ben Johnson and Eric Bieniemy. Not that Sean Payton's not an accomplished play caller. Personally, as a Ravens fan, it's a little difficult to force yourself to forget the 2022 game when Payton was a commentator. And at halftime, he looked completely unprepared. His observations were incredibly off-putting, in my opinion. It almost looked like he was acting unusual or possibly even under the influence. I think it was the Ravens game against the Saints, the first game that we played after the Roquan Smith trade, but I could be wrong. I have to be honest with you. The Broncos film surprised me. Far more conservative play calling and reliant on the running backs than I was expecting. But look, Chicago Bears ran for the third highest yards per game in the NFL in 2025. Denver just appeared to me to be playing a more conservative style that fits with the quality of their defense. I enjoyed the one-man screen that I showed you, escort screen, some people call it, get the blocker out in front, kind of gives the running back a two-way go. The last play I showed you, the dash concept off play action, off a read option look. The Chicago pass attack to me was a lot more impressive, diverse, and interesting to watch. I hope that's more so where Declan Doyle goes in 2026. In any case, if you guys enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comment section, number one. Number two, if you have other suggestions for where to go or content that I could produce, there's obviously no film for us to show yet other than the little snippets that we get on social media and stuff, and can't show that obviously on YouTube. I appreciate you guys' time if you sat and checked this video out for the whole time. If you enjoyed the video, please consider grabbing a link. If you think other people would enjoy the video, then please consider grabbing a link to it, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.